Good geekity evening, everyone.
Well, that intro video kind of worked. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Geeks and Noobs podcast. I am your host, Super Beer Vince Hoover, joined as always by Kel McCosway down below and special guest, Comic Punk Guy, the host of Monday Night Punk Driver right here on TGN Networks, and also frequent guest of our show here. And we do have a very, very special episode for you today. But of course, if you are on Twitch, please follow us, hit that heart button. If you're feeling ever so generous, please subscribe. We're trying to get to 100 total subs. We're down to 48. The gifted subs have worn out. So if you could, please subscribe. If you have Prime, use your Prime subscription. Make Jeffrey Bezos pay for it and stick it to the billionaires. If you're on YouTube watching this, please hit that thumbs up like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. It's free there. Also hit the notification bell so you know every time we go live. If you're on Facebook, please hit the thumbs up button. Please share it with your friends. Join the page, the Geeks and Noobs podcast. And if you are on Kick, our brand new service, please follow over there as well and let us know that you're here. And of course, today's show, it is the final day of our sponsorship with Universal Pictures Renfield, starring Nicholas Hoult and the great Nicolas Cage as Dracula. The story of Renfield, the assistant to Dracula, finally have enough of all the gaslighting in our system and trying to stand up for himself here in the modern day. The horror comedy is out in theaters exclusively April 14th. In 2 weeks' time, we will be doing a full breakdown of that movie. So not next week, but the week after, we'll do a full breakdown on the film. And I'm really looking forward to watching it and having a good time. Unfortunately, I've been under the weather all week long, so I did not get to go to the movies this week. I wanted to go see the Mario movie, but it is still the crux of the discussion today because we are talking... oh, thanks, Kel, for liking the stream.
I got you.
It's weird because if you look at Rotten Tomatoes... Oh, Kel also shared the stream. What a sweetheart. If you look at the Rotten Tomatoes, critics, it's at a 46% with critics, but it's at a 98% with audiences. It's at a 98% with thousands of reviews from the audience.
Oh my God.
That's impressive. And I saw Moist Critical. We talk about him quite often on this network. He is an OG YouTuber and a Twitch streamer, and he has the Moist meter. And he talked about the movie, and he goes, it was fantastic. Because it's exactly what it's supposed to be. A just fun, animated, good time. There's not a ton of character development, because you don't need it. It's just a fun adventure time. Andrew, thanks for liking the stream. Get yourself a dancing T-Rex. It was just a good old time. Kel went away. Where did Kel go? Kel go bye-bye. Why did Kel go bye-bye? Kel be back. But... so I'm going to probably go see it tomorrow. I'm hoping I'm feeling good enough to go see it tomorrow. I am looking forward to it. There's also the Dungeons & Dragons movie, which is kind of in the same boat. It doesn't have a great critic score, but it has a great audience score. And I think that when it comes to video game and board game movies, there is a bit of a stigma to it.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I mean,
yeah.
it's warranted. I mean, let's be real. It's warranted. Because 99 times out of 100, video game and board game movies tend to suck. They don't do well in transcribing. I mean, even as people are like, well, that was the past. Go look at the Uncharted film that just came out a couple years ago.
Garbage.
Hey, AJ, how's it going? I'm hanging in there. Things aren't blurry today, so that's a good sign.
Always a plus.
Yeah, so I'm hanging in there. Yeah, so like the Uncharted, which I was super excited for because I think Uncharted 4 is one of the best games ever. I love that game. I love the series, but Uncharted 4 specifically is just so damn good. And it's what I like to call a cinematic game. I play that game because it's fun, but I also play that game for the story.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like God of War and God of War Ragnarok, the 2018 and the 2022 God of Wars. They're movies in and of themselves. So it should translate. But for some reason it doesn't. Tomb Raider is another great example. The Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider movies, if you didn't slap Tomb Raider on them, they're okay action flicks. You know what I mean? Like if you didn't have... It's like I talk about with the movie The Joker. like the Joaquin Phoenix Joker. That's a great film. Like it's a tour de force film. Except when you slap Gotham and these characters on it, and then you don't pay any actual attention to the source material. If you just made it about a stand-up comedian who turned himself into a clown because he thinks that's how the world looks at him, and he goes nuts and creates this, revolution. If you took out Thomas Wayne and Gotham and all that, it's a perfect film.
Totally agree.
But it falls completely flat because you have these well-known characters and well-known universes already built, and you just shit all over them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Tomb Raider Tomb Raider's kind of the same way. If you took the name Lara Croft out of it, called it Treasure Hunter or whatever, something similar to, but not called it that, those movies are better than they are received. And the more recent version Tomb Raider movie, which is actually a good movie, like I really do enjoy that film. It's not just a typical action flick. It's actually a really well done film. But it would be considered better if you took out the Lara Croft aspect of it. You took out the well-known universe that you're not really paying homage to enough. You're not paying homage to it enough in that film. I think the Angelina Jolie movies, besides the outfit, don't do any justice to those films, to those games. But at least the more current one was closer to the remake game that came out.
Yeah.
But still not close enough. I think if you took this about the Hitman movies are okay. Those are just garbage. Those are just garbage. But you can go.
When's the last time anybody talked about those films?
Yeah, they're not great. But it also goes back to like we talked recently about the original Dungeons and Dragons movie with Jeremy Irons cashing a paycheck.
Yeah. So bad.
And the fact that they made 2 sequels to that film, straight to DVD, of course. But
yeah, I think like all there seems to be only one specific genre though of like video game movies, and they love to make horror video games into movies, and they never ever translate very well. Like Alone in the Dark with Christian Slater and Tegan Presley, I think it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And even the Silent Hill movies, the second Silent Hill movie is actually pretty good.
Yeah,
from a horror aspect. The first one is fucking garbage from like beginning to end.
Well, then you jump into what is my favorite franchise of all time, and once I feel better, I will get back into playing Resident Evil 4 Remake. The Resident Evil franchise has, for some reason, never once been translated well to the screen. Why?
No.
Again, even the old game from PS1, the first Resident Evil, it's still a cinematic game. Yes, the dialogue is fucking bullshit. You were almost a Jill sandwich. It's fucking garbage. But you can take that into a horror movie and make it good. The entire thing writes itself. I have a script that my friend Jacques and I wrote in high school that he still has to this day. I need to get it from him. That it's a dead basic, I don't want to say copy, but it's a shot for shot of the game that works perfectly. I turned it in when I went to film school as a secondary script, and I got 100% on it.
Nice. From
an award-winning screenwriter who was our professor.
Nice.
Like, he saw it and goes, yeah, this totally works. And he goes, if we had the time and budget to do it, I would tell you to use this as your student film. But you can't do this in 10 minutes. This is a feature-length film. So, like, I know it can be done. And the thing is, games, again, going back to Uncharted and God of War and all that stuff, they're going to make a God of War series. I'm tentatively excited about that. And Amazon, I trust a little bit more. They seem to do well. Like, if you look at what they did with Invincible, so good.
Yeah.
The Boys, so good. The Boys are one of the best TV shows ever made. So, like, I have more trust in the fact that they're doing it. The scripts for these games, because my friend Jacques now works for Ubisoft. He told me the scripts are their screen scripts. It is the exact formatting of a feature film script.
Yeah.
So why are they so hard to translate? And the thing is, you can't use the excuse, oh, well, things don't always translate. Look at the Sonic films. They're fucking good.
I haven't seen them, but I've seen enough of the trailers and stuff. I think the Sonic movie got saved, I think, by the fans screaming and yelling about the design, because I think that the main criticism or the main takeaway from that movie, if they had not done that, was like everything that movie rocked except for Sonic, and that would have been some of the downfall of it. Like, they're getting a third movie, which is great because they just went with making Sonic look like Sonic.
Yeah.
Which I'm it'll be cool to see whether or not they finally, if they make like Jim Carrey into the Dr. Egghead or something.
Dr. Eggman.
Eggman.
Yeah, Dr. Robotnik. Dr. Robotnik, aka Dr. Eggman. I think they're headed that way because that character is evolving, and I love it. Because in the first one you don't really see it, but by the second one he's got the mustache, right? The next step is to go fat suit.
Yeah.
And I really think they'll get there. Yeah, those movies are great. The Assassin's Creed movie and Max Payne. Two of the worst movies, period, ever made. Just period.
Assassin's Creed was doomed from the very beginning because they had the Kanye West in the trailer that immediately took you out of what the movie was supposed to be. And then the Max Payne movie suffered from being too much like the game.
That is true.
The last 15 minutes of Max Payne, where he's all hopped up and he goes and does all the Max Payne like shit from the game that you've been waiting the entire movie for him to do, which he doesn't do, is fine. If the whole movie was like that, cool. But like the stuff through that and the narrative storytelling, it's like Sin City level bad. But like at least Sin City had the excuse of trying to copy a comic book and be a living, breathing comic book, where like Max Payne, the game, was structured like a comic book. And then when by the time it got translated to film, you're stuck with the Mark Wahlberg action movie for about 2/3 of it, and then you get this like right at the end where I'm like, why couldn't you just do this the entire time?
Well, there are
another movie like that is Doom.
I was just about to say that. I was literally about to say that.
I will defend the first movie with The Rock, the first one, because I fucking love that movie because it's just so bad. So bad it's good. But that last bit where it's all in first person, I can watch that sequence forever because it's literally, that's what Doom is. That him all fucking sky high running around with that gun in first person, and I'm just like, this is it. This is what it's supposed to be. Why couldn't the entire movie just be this? And then I watched Hardcore Henry and almost had a seizure and threw up all over the place.
Yep.
I was about to make that comparison.
I made a mistake. The first time I went to see Hardcore Henry, I bought the D-Box motion seats. And I almost died. I left 15 minutes into the film and went and saw Batman v Superman because I was about to die. Like, straight up motion sickness, because cameras are still not at a place where you can strap a camera to somebody and get that first person view. It's shaky and shit, and like I'm like, we don't move this way. And then you add the actual motion chairs and shit, like nope.
It's like, right off.
Oh, we're gonna get to Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter because I have a lot of love and a lot of hate. But AJ, you brought up The Last of Us. I know not everybody's gotten a chance to watch the series, but The Last of Us is when you have a film or you have a game that is what I call a cinematic game, like The Last of Us, but you need to expand on it. The Last of Us TV show should be taught to people trying to do it. They expanded on it perfectly. They kept the core of the story. They did a wonderful job. They fleshed out characters that weren't fleshed out in the game, like that whole episode about Bob, which is episode 3, which is heart-wrenching. And it makes the game heart-wrenching, because you go back and play the game and listen to the dialogue, you're like, oh my god. When he says that was his partner who hung himself after getting bit, he didn't mean partner in crime. He meant partner. Lover. Yeah. Significant other. And I'm like, I played the game and I'm all like, why am I crying now? What the shit? It's because they were able to flesh out. They took the dialogue, they took the stuff that was already there, and they fleshed it out. It's like we talked about last week, Kel, with John Wick. That was meant to be a one-off film. They built a loose universe. and they built on it. They didn't just go, fuck, we got to make money and make sequels. They're like, okay, well, here's what we've started. How do we flesh this out? That's what they did with The Last of Us. And I think The Last of Us should be taught in film school. I legitimately mean this as a way to take an existing IP that is not a movie and to turn it into cinema, be it TV show or film. This is the exact way to do it.
Last of Us benefits from a lot of, like, not only does it adapt the game really well. Now, I, full disclosure, have never played either one of them. My sister, it's weird. It's a weird dynamic because usually I'm the person who's read the comic books, you know, seen the old movie that they're remaking or played the video game. In this instance, my sister, who's 7 years younger than me, has played all the. I think there's two of them. I've played the two games, and I'm like, I liked this, and she goes, it's not really like that in the game, but they actually what they did made it better. I still haven't watched the finale yet because I haven't had time, but I think one of the things from what I've seen of the game versus the show, I think one of the things that they did is I guess in the game, from what I've been told, is like when you encounter clickers and these kind of more advanced stage plant zombie fungus things, that they're far and few in between, and when they're around it's a big deal, and the show did a really good job of conveying that. Like when they all spilled out of that hole and that big one came out and ripped the super sexy long-haired rifleman's head off, like I was like, oh shit, like I don't need to see this again. I don't even need to see this every week. I don't need this every week. This is too much, like compared to the rest of the series.
Yeah.
And even when they were in that well-established town, although that episode to me felt like a Walking Dead episode, it was at least a good Walking Dead episode. And like it, I feel like the Last of Us was able to kind of bridge you don't have to play the games to watch that. You don't really have to even know about the games to watch that at all to enjoy it.
Exactly.
Where with some of the more niche properties that have been made into movies, if you don't enjoy the games, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to enjoy it. You might not enjoy the movie. Like I personally have absolutely no desire to see Super Mario Brothers. I'm not a Nintendo guy. Have never been a Nintendo guy. I saw the John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins Super Mario movie.
We are going to get to
and
that.
I will defend that to the end of the world because I love that movie, and that's all I need to see. Like I don't do well with animation at this age for some reason. It just does nothing for me anymore, unless it's Into the Spider-Verse. But it's for a video game movie to work, you have to make it accessible to everyone where knowledge of the game is not warranted, nor is it necessary, but still stays true enough to keep everyone grabbed in, and that's what Last of Us is able to do.
Exactly. Another thing that I think, another movie that they should teach when you're talking about previous IPs outside of the visual spectrum, and this is where the whole, well, now that in the modern day we're able to do it right. No. I'm going to go back to what is one of the greatest movies ever made, period. Bar none. All-star cast, super funny, and was unique at the time because you didn't know what ending you would get when you went to the theater.
I was hoping you were going to bring this up.
Clue is the greatest adaptation from a board game to cinema. First off, Clue has no real story. There's a story that you're playing, but it's the most basic story. It's a board game. Yeah. They took that, kept the very core of the game, built a universe around it, and gave us Tim Curry, Madeline Kahn, Christopher Lloyd, etc. in one of the,
Mark Mole.
Yeah, Mark Mole, like just one of the greatest films of all time. If you had never played the game Clue, you were not lost one bit. But if you played the game Clue, every little thing, oh, he's got the wrench. Oh, there's a lead pipe. Little Easter eggs before Easter eggs were a thing. That you were just like, oh my god. It nails the entire core of the game. It nails Clue to a T. But also gives you one of the most fun movies there ever has been. I watched it this morning before I finally fell asleep. And like, you get so much out of it. It's perfect. The cast, obviously a lot of it has to do with the cast because you have one of the greatest all-star cast of all time. Madeline
and it
Kahn,
was a genius idea that they made it a
Yeah.
comedy.
Yeah.
Because if they tried to do a straight lace who done it story, we wouldn't be talking about it right now because it wouldn't be as good.
Well, look at Knives Out and Glass Onion.
Yeah.
They're straight whodunit movies, but they still have the quips and these moments in them to help keep they break the tension at the right times. This movie, it has tension, but you don't need it. It's got the same tension the board game has when you're trying to figure out who did it. That's it. It is the greatest adaptation of something board game. It is the greatest board game or video game adaptation there has ever been. Period. Like, that is not even up for debate. It is the greatest one. The movie should have won every Oscar. It was also so unique at the time, and it was such a smart move to put multiple endings out there.
Yeah.
Like, in some towns, small towns that had multiple theaters, they only sent one ending to each theater. So you would have to go to different theaters. So you're helping the economy in your area. You're helping the movie make more money. And it wasn't until the movie came out on VHS that you got all the endings. Which, by the way, in and of itself makes it a fantastic film, because you get this, but what if it happened this way moment, and then you get to replay the, but what if you, so the experience you got at home after seeing it in the theater was even better, because the multiple endings attached to the end made it feel even cooler.
Yeah.
And the music's
more immersive. Yeah.
The music is simple and yet fantastic.
Yes.
Like, it's exactly what the board game should have been. And to take a board game that, again, it's little pawn-shaped pieces, colored each color. You got very little description on each character, and it's pick a weapon, pick a murderer, pick a room. And yet we get one of the greatest movies of all time. That should be studied in film school. Because they didn't change. Did they change anything from the board game? No, they just built on it. They had a foundation, and they built on it. Instead of, here's my foundation, now let's scrape away the foundation and go this way with it. And instead of making the Eiffel Tower, which is what we have the foundation for, we're going to make the Leaning Tower of Pisa, which is not even in the same country. Which is what the Joker did, and so many other movies have done. Warcraft is a fucking terrible film. And again, a series with so much universe built in that it writes itself. And I think part of it, and maybe this is what it is, maybe it's like, and there is a bit of ego when it comes to screenwriters. I mean, in every creative aspect of every form, artists, directors, everybody has a bit of ego, and they want to put their stamp on things. And I think when it comes to writers, that they see this property with this built universe, and they think they can do it better. And that's what happens. I mean, that's literally word for word what Todd Phillips said about the Joker. I keep bringing that movie up, but it's the best example I can give. He said he could do it better. He's like, it's not going to be like the comic books because I can do it better. No, you can't. These characters are popular. These games are popular because they're already done the way they should be done. And that's what The Last of Us did. Hey, we're going to expand on this thing that you love. We're going to make some changes because we have to for film purposes, but we're going to stay true to what you love. And we're just going to expand on it. Same with Clue. Warcraft was like, hey, we're going to take this IP and just fuck it all up. And Doom kind of does the same thing, in all honesty, because most of what the core of Doom is, it's a portal to hell.
Yeah.
Not a portal to aliens and others. Like, it's just a portal to hell. And there was so much, and like, that movie to me is a lot of fun. Like you said, when it gets to that first person, Carl Urban hopped up on shit. With Carl Urban's fucking, I love him and everything he does. He's so good. What is y'all's opinion on the Angry Birds movies? I love the first one. The second one is where they jumped the shark. The second one is where they tried to expand too far and just cash in on the first one being successful. But again, here's a game that is a mobile game with no true... The only story is the pigs show up and steal the birds' eggs. The birds decide to use their bodies to break the houses of the birds, of the pigs, to get their eggs back. That's it. That's actually more descriptive than the actual story is it of itself. But they took that, flesh the characters out, and boom, you have a decent, fun kids movie that worked. Done well. Because again, instead of trying to build something away from the foundation, they built on the foundation. They didn't make it to where the pigs were from outer space and all. No, they were just from a different island. The birds didn't know any other world existed outside their island. These pigs show up. Hey, we're from the other island. We're coming to say hi. The reality is they were coming to steal the eggs. Boom. I mean, I think the anger management scene in that movie is hilarious because it lends credence to why they're angry beyond just their eggs being stolen. And it was really funny. So it's a good film. What about Rampage with The Rock? All right. So The Rock has been in one of the best and one of the worst a couple of the worst video game or board game movie or adaptations. He's in the Jumanji series, which they did a fantastic job of building off the foundation they had already built with the Robin Williams film. And I actually think that Jumanji is a book that wasn't actually a board game till after the movie came out, the first one.
I'm pretty sure that's how.
I don't think the board game actually
so.
existed. Same with Zathura, which is the space version of Jumanji. Same writer. It's his space version of Jumanji. And I think that board game didn't exist until after the movie. That being said, the sequels are now adapting not only the movie, but the board game, which became popular. And he does a great job. I love the Jumanji sequels. I think they're great. Then you've got Doom, which is a guilty pleasure film, but still not very accurate to the core of the game. And then you've got Rampage, which is a whole lot of what the fuck.
Mm.
Yeah. For lack of a better word. I've never seen a movie that, like, you'd think that it would be straightforward, that you would just go as big and as cartoony as possible to mimic that style, and then they didn't do it. But they should have done is closer to, like, the second Ninja Turtles movie than they in the design of the monsters versus trying to make them, like, I think, like, the problem with Rampage is it is very, very heavily influenced by Transformers.
Yes.
Very heavily influenced by Transformers. And that's, like, the problem is that the Transformers movies that are, the majority of them are not good. And the movie suffers from the same type of problems that the other one did, or that Transformers movies did. Doom, I get why Doom is different, because Doom wanted to avoid two things. Doom is closer to Doom 3 than it is any of the other traditional Doom games, because that was the only one out. It was the newest one, is what they were going off of. And the portal to an alien virus, or however the avenue to get the monsters and stuff, the reason they didn't do the portal to hell was because the spaceship finding a portal to hell had been done to perfection in Event Horizon.
We're getting
And
there,
it's
AJ.
too similar.
Oh, yeah. First off, one of the greatest movies, greatest horror films ever. Sam Neill and Lawrence Fishburne are both just geniuses. Also, In the Mouth of Madness, another Sam Neill horror film everybody should see.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. So you're right. Yeah, they were trying to avoid the comparison to Event Horizon, which, I mean, understandable. But you're right. Rampage has nothing to do with the game. The other problem with Rampage is they tried to ground it in reality. Oh, these are real animals that have been altered, but that is so far away from reality that at that point, just make them just ridiculous monsters. Like, don't explain where they came from. Who cares? Just make them ridiculous, monsters. But, so AJ brings up a point, and this is something I wanted to talk about. Pixels with Adam Sandler, which is based on multiple video games. It's a fucking horrible film.
Haven't seen it.
It's so bad. It does nothing. It really is a only losers play video games type of film. Because they are literally, like, everybody that's a man in that film is making fun of the people saving the day the entire time. And Adam Sandler is this amazing game wizard who works for a cable company, whose best friend happens to be the president of the United States of America, Kevin James, who is the president and yet still a loser. And then Josh Gad, who, by the way, is 14 to 15 years younger than Adam Sandler, and yet somehow their characters grew up at like basically the same age. He lives in his mom's he became a conspiracy theorist guy, thinking that the Matrix is real kind of thing. It's just, and then you have Peter Dinklage, who's playing a caricature of that guy. What's his name?
That beat Pac-Man.
Yeah, the guy who beat Donkey Kong, and turns out he cheated.
Yeah.
He's a caricature of him, and yet he still gets away scot-free. And like the movie's so stupid. I don't even like, if you haven't seen it, I can't even begin to describe what I'm about to say. Josh Gad's character falls in love with the poster of a video game character, a la Tomb Raider, but it's like this blonde bombshell. Actually looks a lot like the red dress woman in The Matrix.
Yeah.
But she's a ninja. She gets, when the aliens leave, because the aliens only came and they mimicked all these video games because of a space capsule that got sent out with the 80s video games from the 80s. And yet a lot of the games, because the capsule was sent out in 84, a lot of the games that come back are from like 89 to 90, which doesn't make any sense. So that already is a problem. So when they beat the aliens, all the stuff leaves, including her. And now he's like, oh my god, we were in love, because they were making out the whole time. It was fucking nuts. Cubert's the only one who gets to stick around. And then Cubert transforms into her, and they have babies, and they're all Cubert It's fucking weird. It's fucking stupid. It's a terrible, terrible film. It is a cookie cutter Adam Sandler film, like very much so an Adam Sandler film, but it does nothing for the video game community but make fun of them the entire time. And
but it's still slightly a guilty pleasure of mine. I watch it on occasion.
It is. It's one of those, like, so speaking of guilty pleasures, you've already brought it up, CPG. One of the greatest terrible films of all time that I watch all the time is Super Mario Brothers, the original. First off, you have Bob fucking Hopkins and John motherfucking Leguizamo.
And Dennis Hopper's
Holy
back
shit.
in it.
And Dennis Hopper, coked out Dennis Hopper at that. Very obviously coked out Dennis Hopper. It's great. That movie has nothing to do with the Mario movie in any way, shape, or form except by name. But it's so good. Walk Like a Dinosaur, that song with a little dance sequence in the middle of it, is fucking great. The Goombas are fucking stupid and they're great.
Dude, that's a dream. Like when I was younger, and a lot of my friends were into cosplay, and I was always like, yeah, big guys can't do cosplay, I'm not doing it. And what I wanted to do was like find a way to build the Goombas from that movie.
Yeah.
And there was just like, because you could just hide in it, and I couldn't, I was never able to do it, but I was like, man, because they're just so dumb. And when the one gets the harmonica, it's just so dumb.
Yeah.
Like Toad in that movie is insufferable. I wanted to punch that person. I don't even know who it is.
I thought
like
at first, when I first saw it, I thought it was Wayne Static from Static X, and it's not.
Oh Jesus!
But I thought it was. I was like, is that Wayne Static from Static X? It's not. It's he is a musician though. I forgot his name. But
the dance scene with Big Bertha, like that, it's just a large woman in a red spiky outfit.
Yes.
And then they have these characters that are the names of the characters from art. They have nothing to do with them.
No.
I mean, like the most accurate one is Yoshi.
And he's too accurate.
A little dinosaur.
He's too accurate.
Because he's terrifying.
It's just a little velociraptor at that point. And we had just seen, like, we just got to see Jurassic Park, a couple years after that?
Mm-hmm.
I think it comes out, like, I think that came out in 91? Was Super Mario Brothers?
First Jurassic Park was 91, yeah.
No, 93 was Jurassic Park, and I think 91 was Super Mario Brothers. So our only experience with dinosaurs on screen, really, at that point, was Yoshi, who is a mini version of the most terrifying thing in Jurassic Park. You're like, what the shit? Like, what the, like, and I don't remember her name, but I was absolutely in love with who played Princess Peach as a kid. Like, absolutely in love with her. I thought she was amazing. I watch that movie all the time. It is a guilty pleasure of mine. It's like that'll be one of the films when we do Full Circle Cinema that we're absolutely going to watch, because it is so bad that it's good. It comes all the way back around.
In the same vein of the Super Mario movie, you had Double Dragon.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Like, I think Alyssa Milano was like probably 18 in that movie, and like the set pieces and the characters. I mean, it's got nothing to do with the game, and the bad guy was absolutely terrifying when you think about what he could actually do.
Mm-hmm.
Is that Mark DeCostas or is that Brandon Lee?
It is, yes.
It is Mark DeCostas, right?
Yes.
Because at that age, those two men look so similar, I could not tell them apart. Is there a reason that Mark DeCostas was the stand-in for Brandon Lee after he got unfortunately shot on The Crow? He went in with the face paint and did all the reshoot stuff. At that age, those two men look so similar, I could not tell them apart. And then you have the guy from that one TGIF show. It was like Dawson's Creek before Dawson's Creek. He was on that, and he was the other brother with zero martial arts skill. So they're so diametrically opposed in that film, because you got Mark DeCostas, who is an world-renowned martial artist, and then you've got this guy who's never thrown a kick in his life. It's just, and then the villain in that is just eating up the scenery so much. So bad. It's so
over the top. His entire look is over the top. He looks like a sketch of like a cartoon character villain, and they just like really just built a guy into that. He's got the really like gross like in some of the villainous roles that like Sam Rockwell has played. He's got the same kind of gross like, oh, I don't want this guy. Like, this guy's gonna put something in your drink like type of look to him.
Yeah.
And just the medallions, the rubbing of the systematic rubbing of the medallions before they're put together and stuff. It's just so bad. But it has a lot of the same qualities, like those weird mutant characters and stuff. That fits right into like some of the stuff that was in Super Mario Bros.
It's Robert fucking Patrick.
I thought it was, yeah.
It is T-1000 Robert Patrick. It's a villain, but he's playing an Asian character.
Oh, sweet
That
Jesus.
right there is already a problem. It's Scott Wolf is the other brother. He's
Scott
Billy
Wolf.
Lee. Mark DeCostas is Jimmy Lee. Alyssa Milano is Marion. Yeah. So that movie cost $7.8 million to make. It only made $4 million at the box office.
Speaking of Double Dragon, I used to remember watching the Double Dragon animated series.
Yes. I love the series, yeah.
Yeah, it's free on Tubi, but also had nothing to do with the games. Not one damn thing.
And I think that the movie is based more on the animated series than I think it is the game. Because the movie has nothing to do with the video game series either.
Yeah.
And speaking of like kind of movies that are so bad they're good and they're guilty pleasures, Street Fighter.
Yes.
You have the all-American boy Guile, played by Belgian wonder kid Jean-Claude Van Damme, who doesn't even bother with an American accent. You have
one bit.
Massively overgrown muscular dictator M. Bison, played by Raul Julia, who, by the way, unfortunately
hands up every single scene that he's hit, just
he
dials it in.
He was also unfortunately dying at that moment. That was literally the last film he made.
Oh God.
The reason why he did was because one of his kids were big fans of the video game.
It's the only reson he took
and
the
when
role.
He said, "Yeah,
he was legit dying.
He wanted to do.
He was legit dying of HIV at the time, and he died shortly after the filming had wrapped up. So he looked it. He looked kind of. Remember how Freddie Mercury looked in his last few days that we all saw him? It's exactly how he looked. But you wouldn't know it by his performance because he is giving it all of his
everything.
His raw Julia Ussi, just pushing it all out there. It is all out for the world to see. The one thing I got to give them a lot of credit for in Street Fighter is they actually tried really hard to make the characters like the game characters.
Mm-hmm.
Kylie Minogue is Cammy. I mean, famous Australian singer is Kylie Minogue is Cammy. what's her name from Agents of Shield and
Oh yeah, I can't. ever
Book of
remember
Boba
her name.
Fett and Mandalorian.
Mulan and
Yeah, the voice of Mulan and all that. Crap, I'll look it up. Hold on.
Yeah, look at
Um, why is her name escaping me? She's an amazing, amazing actress, and for some reason her name is escaping me. Ming-Na Wen. Jesus.
and now win. Yeah.
She's Chun-Li.
So-
Uh,
well, the best. I mean, in a badly acted movie, she is the best thing, and her dialogue with Bison is my favorite part of the whole movie. When she's telling him the story of how she became who she was and how she came to be there, and years ago M. Bison killed her father, and so she's been on a mission to kill him, and everything like that. And then Bison's just like, for you, the day that Bison changed your life will live forever in you. But for me, it was Tuesday. I was like, fucking cold is that? Oh my God.
it was just that movie. Like, yeah, so you get this moment of like almost Oscar-worthy performance out of both of them in this rather obscure, ridiculous film. That was the other part of it. And Jean-Claude Van Damme is also giving it 110%, as he always did back then. And it's pure Jean-Claude Van Damme. I thought Jackie Chan did a funny Chun-Li. Yeah, there's a great movie.
Yeah.
Oh, God, what's the name of that movie? There's a Jackie Chan film where he gets knocked in the head and he wakes up as Chun-Li, and the two guys he's fighting are Kin and Ryu.
Yeah.
And it's a great scene. It's just a great scene in that. Oh, what is that name of that? What's the name of that movie? Hold on, I gotta look that up. That's another great film. I mean, that's just like, it's not the whole movie's like that. It's just a moment, but
there's also like a barrage of like, especially with fighter movies. Like there's like games that are based or movies
City
that are based
Hunter.
on fighting games.
City Hunter.
You have an entire like there's the Legend of Chun-Li Street Fighter movie that has nothing to do with anything. I think Vega is in it, and I think the woman that played the love interest for the majority of Smallville is the one that plays.
She played
Chun-Li
Lana
in
Lang.
that.
She played Lana Lang in Smallville.
Yeah, and like Vega's in it. I think Michael Clark Duncan was Bishop. Was Bison in that one? I can't remember. Like I know that he's in the movie. I just can't remember who he played. Like that movie is straight garbage. And then like not long after that, you had the Dead or Alive movie, and that movie was garbage too.
Well, also there was a Tekken movie.
Oh yes, yeah.
Which is awful.
Yeah. The best thing we can say about it is that it exists. That's the nicest thing we'll say about it.
It's that's really is. It's like the Catwoman of video game movies.
Yeah. I mean, that might be giving it too much credit.
Yeah, it's just awful. So bad. And the thing is like, again, you have an established universe with backstory built into these characters. How hard is it to make a Chun-Li movie if you just focus on the backstory that's already established? Kevin Nash has done so many weird roles. Yes, he was in the Tekken movie. He was Super Shredder in the second Super Mario Brother,
Ninja Turtles.
He was in the Punisher film, the one with Thomas Jane as the Russian.
He got stabbed in real life.
Yeah. And took it and fucking just kept going.
Yeah.
He's done a lot. He's in John Wick. He's in the first John Wick as the doorman. He's had a lot of obscure roles. Good for him.
Kevin Nash does a really good Russian accent.
He does. He actually does.
Yeah.
I wonder if he actually speaks Russian, because he does a really good job in John Wick and in the Punisher film. Which, granted, he only has one sentence in all of the Punisher film, but
yeah.
It's crazy when you think about another just absolutely horrid attempt. And this is a game that has literally no backstory. Not like Clue has more backstory than this board game. Battleship.
Oh man, that movie came out when I was in the Navy, and it. Oh, like the amount of times that I've seen that just because like they ironically played it on the ship. I'm like, this movie is dog shit. It's so bad.
Oh, AJ.
It is a 100% accurate depiction of the United States military. However, it's dog shit. It's not a good movie.
Yeah. Also, where did the fucking aliens come from? The board game Battleship is about two warring navies. Where the fucking aliens come from? Where the fuck? And where is like the?
Yeah, what year did that come out?
You realize the story you could have done with that is you have two warring.
2012, 2013, I think.
Yeah, you create two warring nations. You make up two nations. You don't make it the United States and anybody else. You create two nations, right? And you make it in a world where you cannot see your opponent.
Yeah, you could have had like them shoot a missile that caused an EMP explosion to black out all the system's radars and whatever. You know, something.
Yeah, like there's so many things you could have done, because that's where you have a game that is so open to interpretation that you can do something with it without having to change it by like bringing in aliens. Because like, what the actual fuck? AJ brings up a movie that we do need to talk about, because I want to preface this by saying I love Jake Gyllenhaal. I think he's fantastic. I love him to death.
Persia.
Yep.
What in the whitewashed blue hell were they thinking with that movie?
Yeah.
And his terrible East India British accent. And the worst spray tan. And like, it's bad enough that Aladdin is voiced by a white guy. But this, there are a couple action scenes in that film that feel right out of the game. That they actually did a good job, like the wall running, the ones where the buildings crumble, and he's like, that was cool. But it's literally like a 5 minutes of total film that's worth watching. The rest of it is just like, this is god awful.
I don't think I ever finished that one.
Like, this is a man who was in Bubble Boy. And that's like, first of all, Bubble Boy
is a good movie though.
Bubble Boy is one of the greatest cinematic feats of all time. No, there will be no cutting the Vato. Like, it's so good. Love that fucking movie so much. Do you want $500? Yes, I want $500. Do you want $500? Yes, I want $500. Do you want $500? Yes, I want $500. I freaking love that movie. But
yeah, great.
But that should be at the bottom of his rung, right?
You would think.
No. Prince of Persia is below the floor.
Yeah, it's below the bottom.
He doesn't talk about it. Like, he tries to wipe it from existence. The movie is so bad. I
personally think that anybody walked up to Jake Gyllenhaal and said, "Hey, I saw Prince of Persia." Jake Gyllenhaal would get out his wallet and say, "Okay, sorry, here's your money."
Yeah, like, I just...
Or would say, you know, like, my favorite movie of you is Prince of Persia, and I'd be like, I wasn't in that movie. That wasn't me.
No, you know what would happen? He would tell his bodyguards to shoot that person because they're a psycho.
Yes.
or it'd say, like
they need to be on a watch list.
Mm-hmm.
But rather insist you're in John Carter of Mars and probably get away with it.
Yeah, oh, God. It's like... No, I was in Jonah Hex. I wasn't in Prince of Persia. I gotta go.
Yeah.
Which Jonah Hex is one of the worst films ever, too.
Oh, God, yes.
That's one I'm probably gonna make us sit through for Full Circle Cinema. Because I think we could roast a shit out of that film.
Okay, for roasting perfect, I thought you were just doing it to punish us. I was like, what the hell do we do?
Well, partially to punish you, because why not?
Fuck.
But I'm gonna be punished along with you. Yay! We will roast the shit out of that. I don't think anybody will ever hear the audio of the film, because we will be the entire time roasting the shit out of it.
Oh yeah.
The only good thing about Jonah Hex is the soundtrack, and everything else sucks. Like,
I think they shot,
because Mastodon did all the music for it.
Yes, they did, and I love Mastodon.
And the actual movie soundtrack is like not soundtrack, but the score and everything that they put together for that fucking rocks. It's so good. But it's in this movie that wanted the entire vibe and audio feel to be completely written by Mastodon.
Yeah.
So it's just like you have this amalgamation of things that people don't care about. Like Mastodon wasn't as popular as they are now, and even now, Mastodon's not what they were back then. And they create this like this just horror sounding like metal awesome soundtrack that doesn't fit the Western vibe of the movie at all whatsoever, but on its own is so damn good. And they all get killed at one point in the movie. All the people are fast.
I also feel like there was two different movies being shot at the same time, because when you get to that ending fight with him and John Malkovich, and then there's the fight in the collapsing clock tower or whatever they're in, and then there's the fight in this weird dream red sand desert at the same time, and you don't know, is this in his head? What is going on? I think that it was two separate ending shot. Realized they didn't have enough film, so they merged the two together. Because that movie's not long, and yet it feels like it's 4.5 hours long.
It's quite a chore to watch all the way through.
And Megan Fox has no organs whatsoever.
Yeah,
the corset she wears in that is wrapped around her fucking spine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could literally, like, I know I make this gesture, but like, I could literally do this and go all the way around her waist in that film.
Yeah, it's really strange, like real strange. Like when I remember when the character poster started coming out for that, and I was like, "What the fuck's going on?"
Yeah, no, it's pretty bad. What about video games that were based on movies like GoldenEye? I think it
came out first before the game.
Video games that were based on movies.
Yeah, so flipping the script of what we're talking about, that's also been hard to do, because GoldenEye is more so the exception to the rule than the rule, because GoldenEye is a banger of a game, but it was also right place, right time, and completely changed the genre. Because if GoldenEye came out today, it wouldn't hold up. Because there's so many things like Call of Duty and all these other, fucking Battlefield and all that, or Battlefront or whatever. Battlefield. I was right.
Yeah. GoldenEye walked so all these other games today could run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, there's like, I would say like some of the Spider-Man games for the first Tobey Maguire series of movies that came out were pretty decent. I'm trying to think of other games that came out. Like, most games that come out for movies, they're not good. Like, if you look at like the Marvel movie, like early on when Marvel Cinematic had just started, the Thor game is fucking awful.
Yeah, the Iron Man really game. Bad God of War clone. The Captain America game is an Arkham clone that has a lot of potential and was fun to play, but overall
that one's actually the best of all of them.
That's probably the best of them, not all of them.
That's the one I would say, and that's when Sega had the rights to them. We got an Incredible Hulk game that was actually based on the Ang Lee Hulk movie that was garbage, but then there was the spin-off of Hulk Ultimate Destruction, which was supposed to be set in that same universe. That game's a ton of fucking fun.
Yes. Even the Ghost Rider game, God of War clone, I actually really enjoyed playing when it came out.
I don't think I played that one. I don't think I played that one.
Because it was just Ghost Rider in hell. Like, there wasn't anything super crazy about it. And the Wesley Snipes Blade game is actually pretty damn good. I remember playing that a lot when I was a kid.
So the Batman video games are based more on the comic books than the movies, so I don't really count those. Like, the Arkham games are very much based on the yes, they have a bit of the look of the movies, like the tank Batmobile and in Arkham City, and the kind of like armored look of the suit for the most part, but they're more so based on the comics than they are the movies, so I don't really count those. And like, I don't count Spider-Man PS4 because that's its own thing. But like, you had some of the Spider-Man game, like Spider-Man 1 and 2. Spider-Man 1's not so much, but Spider-Man 2, the video game, is actually pretty good.
It was really good.
Then you've got the Amazing Spider-Man game, which was, I think, one of the last ones to be a movie. Like, you don't see it very much anymore. You get movie adaptation video games.
The Amazing Spider-Man game was another Arkham clone that functioned pretty well, but it was missing a lot because you're not playing as Batman, you're playing as Spider-Man. So like, some of the stuff that they added to it, you're like, this doesn't really do much, And then once, like, I think in terms of Spider-Man games, once Spider-Man PlayStation 3 or whatever 4 came out,
PS4,
like, game over. Yeah. Just
That's-
game over.
that's-
Like that,
it-
that
that is-
game's amazing.
It's still the greatest video game of all time to me. Like, it is it is my top. The Spider-Man PS4 game is just it nails everything, and I'm so excited for the next one to come out. But once I found out that it's going to be exclusively PS5, I got pissed because I don't have one.
Yeah.
God damn it. But I do have Steam in a gaming laptop, so I might get it on there if I can. If they'll allow it, because a lot of those exclusive games they don't allow on Steam, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah,
But,
I think Spider-Man 4, it just came out for the PC a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So
And that was years after it came out.
yeah.
Arguably, one of the best video game adaptations of a movie where the movie is absolute shit and the game's actually way better than the movie is X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yes.
The X-Men Origins
Oh,
Wolverine
yeah.
game, it's a hard R
That
game.
game is
It's it's rated M for mature. It is a great game, and the movie is absolute dog shit.
Oh yeah, the movie's bad,
And
man.
correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Wolverine voiced by Mark Hamill in that?
No, Hugh Jackman did
No?
do the voice for that.
Okay.
I'm pretty
Then
sure.
what
I'll
game
look it
am I
up.
thinking
I'll look
of?
it up. I'll look it up and double check.
It might have
Okay.
been the X2 game. The
Yeah, that might have been the
it's-
X2 game.
Okay.
because there was there was X-Men. There was X-Men Origins Wolverine game, and there was X-Men. I forgot what it was called. Where you could play as Cyclops, Wolverine, Storm, and somebody else. I think it was bad. You know.
Yeah, X-Men 2 is the one that he voiced.
Okay.
And that game's not bad, but like the movie's better. Like X-Men 2 was actually a pretty decent film.
Yeah, yeah. I went back and I watched those last summer, and I did it like on my old Twitter account before I'd gotten rid of it like the first time. I had like tweeted along with each movie, and then like after I got to the end of Last Stand, I'm like, all right, do I go like X-Men Origins Wolverine and Logan, or do I go First Class? And like Twitter was like, go the Wolverine route, and I'm like, watching X-Men Origins Wolverine, I'm like, this movie sucks so much ass.
They wanted you to suffer.
Well, it's just like I know
And they-
another movie I'm going to make us watch for the Full Circle Cinema is X-Men Apocalypse.
Oh god, like that was so bad.
Oh,
I haven't.
no.
You know what? That
I'm gonna get
Apocalypse was so bad that I haven't seen Dark Phoenix because I know that it's if it's not worse, it's just as bad.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the one
I'm
I
saying
might
why-
make.
Avoided that movie like the plague. 'Cause
I
knew it
might
was
make
gonna
us watch that one because it's even worse.
be- I
What
I
did
could
you
rip,
do?
like rip it apart in real time because I've
Yeah.
never seen it before. Because the moment that I heard that they were gonna like at first they're like, okay, cool, we're doing the Dark Phoenix thing. There's gonna be scrolls in it. Everything's awesome. Marvel comes down on them and says you can't have the scrolls, and they're like, fuck. And then the movie just derails immediately. Like a movie like I mean New Mutants wasn't anything great, but I've heard that's better than Dark Phoenix.
I actually like the New Mutants movie. I think what hurt it is the
It's
fact that
alright.
it took 4 years to come out.
Yeah, that's
From
yeah,
being
I think if it would have
finished.
came out with no reshoots, it probably would have been like, whatever the original idea
Yeah.
to have a horror movie and like the trailers for that. I'm like, cool. Could totally tell what's her face was supposed to be Rosario Dawson at some point. It's very much a character that she would play. But like everything else in the movie, I'm like, damn, this is actually pretty cool. Hey, shit, magic's in it. Holy crap, that woman actually looks like someone drew magic and made it into a real person.
Yeah.
And then as everything else kind of started going for it, I'm like, why isn't this movie coming out? Is it bad? And then it jumps, and then it finally comes out, and I watch it. I'm like, this isn't bad. It's not great.
No, I actually when it did come out, I went and saw it in theaters. I'm like, oh, this actually isn't bad. Like I'm actually enjoying this. Like it's not great, but don't forget the only other thing we ever got that was close to New Mutants was that shitty Generation X TV movie we got, which has the only good thing for that movie.
Gifted.
The,
Remember The
no,
Gifted?
no, not that one.
No.
I'm talking from the 90s. There was a
Oh.
Generation X one that the only good thing it had going for it was that "More Human Than Human" by White Zombie was the song of the whole show, and the whole movie. But I mean, it was
I think-
they at least their costumes were straight from the 90s comics. Like they had like the pleather, but bright colored pleather. They tried really hard to make what's his name Chamber who had blown half his face off. They did a good job with that. But the movie's like it's a TV movie. It's just like if you another thing we have to watch. I'm just gonna punish the shit out of y'all. Is the Nick Fury Agents of Shield movie with David Hasselhoff?
Oh, it's Hasselhoff.
I knew you were gonna bring that up. I knew you were gonna bring that one up.
In all fairness, when I watched it as a kid, I'm like, this is great.
Yeah,
I've watched
now-
it since. I've watched it since and go, oh, I was just a naive fuckhead. Because this is fucking god awful.
I'm looking at this Generation X thing. How have I never seen this?
You didn't miss much.
We will have to watch it because I do recommend it. At least a one-time watch. There's also there was a Justice League TV movie that came out roughly around the same time.
I've seen. That's bad.
That's 1,000 times worse. It's 1,000 times worse. First off, the Green Lantern. The Green Lantern is lime colored, like a pale pastel lime. The Flash is a fucking moron.
And the Martian Manhunter is played by that dude from MASH.
Yeah,
that was the butt of every joke, and he was so fat that in his contract, every shot of him had to be straight on because if he was from the side, it was just.
Yep.
He there is one clip where he is sideways. They make one clip of him sideways, and he looks like, oh, he's 9 months pregnant.
Well, he tries to hide it with the cape, and it just makes it worse because then it looks like he just goes this way. And it's so bad.
It's like a heavier set woman in a moo thinking she's hiding it. You ain't hiding it, honey.
I think that the difference between most adapted franchises, especially with comic books, and why the X-Men movies particularly stand out, especially the first 3. And you don't really see this swing back around again until you get to Days of Future Past, because that was they went back to Bryan Singer. Is that I don't think of. Actually, I had a really good conversation with Jay Stubes about this a long time ago, in her comment section and through a couple of videos. That the reason why the X-Men movies worked, where traditional superhero movies, as we know them now, didn't start working until Spider-Man, I would say, or like Daredevil, was the X-Men movies are much more so sci-fi movies than they are superhero movies.
Yeah.
So the entire aspect of the first X-Men movie, the reason why they want Rogue, what the Brotherhood's trying to do, you can take all the X-Men out of that and have a different style of movie where you have people with powers and people without powers, and it's a straight sci-fi story. And you keep getting that. You even get it in Days of Future Past, which goes full-blown superhero at that point. But like the aspect of the cure, the question of the cure, whether it's ethical to take it, all of that's like Isaac Asimov fucking level sci-fi being shoved into a movie that has no right to have any of that try to be funneled into it because it's such a giant turd, you know? And you see it come back. You see things like that come back. Like the technological aspect of the Sentinels in Days of Future Past, all kind of it's very sci-fi feel versus it being like what we know from superhero movies. And that's why I think the audience reception for those was so off, because we had been so lucky to get direct superhero adaptations in the MCU movies that now you're used to some degree of comic book accuracy, at least enough to get by. And then you go back into the Fox X-Men universe, which is so grounded in sci-fi, it feels out of place.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm wondering whenever and I don't want to go completely off topic, but like by the time the MCU gets around to mutants, which I heard the first inkling about mutants is really going to start in Secret Invasion, and it's going to start in the Marvels. And maybe even a little bit in Guardians of the Galaxy, which I just got tickets for today. There's how they're going to tell that story. They don't really have to go the sci-fi route anymore, and I wonder how that's going to all work out in the end of things.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, and that's the thing. And going back to the topic of video games and board game adaptations, like that's kind of like where you see a lot of problems arise. Is you take something that is a simple premise of an IP that you can build off the foundation, but then like in Battleship, where you took it this sci-fi route, for what reason? There's so many of these. There's so many things. It's like again, I think there's a bit of ego when it comes to the screenwriters who feel that they can do a better job with something that's already established. And as a writer, I understand it. Like, I'll read a book and go, oh, well, I would have done it this way, and I think it would have been better this way. But if I was to take that book and adapt it to film, I'm not making those changes because that's not what the writer did. I'm going to adapt what they did. But most writers won't do that. Jack Black wants to do a Red Dead Redemption movie. I would love a Red Dead Redemption movie. I would love a Red Dead Redemption movie. I don't see Jack Black in that.
No.
And to anybody who wants a Red Dead Redemption movie, Deadwood already exists.
That's true.
Just, even if you just watch the Deadwood movie, I mean, like the Deadwood movie, I mean, you do need to watch the series at least to get some of the characters. That's what that is. I mean, that the feeling I had playing Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2, I was like, this just feels like a Deadwood story, you know, or Deadwood universe type of thing, you know.
Fun fact,
So
friend of the channel, Ken Anderson, you know, Mr. Anderson, the wrestler, almost was the mocap actor for Arthur in Red Dead Redemption 2.
damn.
Oh,
Yeah, fun fact.
interesting.
If the game hadn't been delayed, he would have had the role. He was basically told he had the role, and the game got delayed by like a year due to some studio issues, and he ended up losing out to it then. But yeah, so that would have been cool. But yeah, I mean, again, that's a game. So that's a game that you have a script, you have a story. Just adapt that. Don't try to make it your own thing. And I think that's the biggest crux when it comes to adapting video games and board games to movies, is that they try too hard, and it's the same thing that happens with comic book stuff. Like Marvel is the exception to the rule because they do it so well. Instead of straight adapting comic books, which you can't do because that's 80 years of convoluted retcons and all kinds of craziness, they are inspired. They take the core foundation of the characters and then make their own version of it. That's fine. You can do the same thing with a video game, except sometimes when you do that, you get Uncharted, which Tom Holland's great as Nathan Drake. Like, I think he's fine. But the fact that you have Uncharted 3 and 4 elements in what is essentially his origin doesn't make any sense. You also have Mark Wahlberg as the most unlikable person on screen. Like, his version of Sully is just unlikable and unredeemable, and I hate him. And Sully is that guy, yeah, he's kind of a dick. He's a character that's kind of like out for himself, but he genuinely cares for Nathan and has since he was a kid, which they fucking ignore the shit out of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
In this, he's just unlikable.
Yeah.
He's
Total
just
douche.
unlikable. Ouija. Yeah, I was gonna bring that one up too.
Oh. Yeah, so you're talking about like the summoning demons Ouija, like the horror movies.
Yeah. So, I mean,
The first one sucks. The second
technically-
one with the crazy Nazi dentist fucking rules because it's so over the top. When that kid's face is like, it's so bad. But God, I could watch the movie all fucking day because it's like if a straight up horror movie. Like they went every single crazy jump scare you could possibly have. They had little kids with rolled out white eyeballs, with blacked out faces, huge smiles going blah, 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 in the camera. But the quality of the movie is like Are You Afraid of the Dark from Nickelodeon. And that's what I fucking love about it so much, is that it reminds me of that, but it's this over-the-top story about a like the demon that's possessing and haunting the family is an escaped or a Nazi that made it to America and became a dentist or a doctor or some shit. And he built this house and he had this torture room and all this. It's so fucking bad. And the acting is terrible, but it's leaps and bounds better than the first one.
well, here's the thing. Like, I do consider Ouija to be a board game because it is made by Mattel, and a bunch of other people make Ouija boards as well. However, I don't
mess
fuck.
with them, though.
I don't fuck with Ouija boards.
Mm-mm.
Even the cheap plastic Mattel ones. I don't do it. I don't do it. I believe in the paranormal, and I believe enough to know that you don't fuck with a Ouija board. But the Ouija movies are based on... They're not even based on the classic Ouija boards. They're based on the Mattel Ouija boards. Like, that's kind of part of what makes the premise so stupid in those movies, is that it's not, oh, we found a 1,000-year-old Ouija board built off petrified wood from a dead forest that was possessed by a demon. No, it's like fucking about a board game. And
the movies the movies go the route of like, you don't fuck with a Ouija board and stuff like that, which is like good advice. Don't do it. After this, I'll tell you a crazy ass story about one of those because it's a little bit too graphic to talk about on here. But the
V Wiper, yes, I agree. They are fucking terrible.
Yeah.
You just don't do it.
Like, I'm trying to think in the realm of board games. I'm trying to think of other than you have Battleship. You've got Clue. I'm trying to think what other adaptations of board game into film. I know there was a Candyland cartoon in the 80s, 90s.
I did kind of include the D&D as board game because it's a tabletop RPG. Let me see. I'm going to look it up. Make it easy on ourselves.
I know the world that is the Cyberpunk 2077 that came from an actual board game before the video game that everyone shit all over came out.
So the Jumanji movies are listed: Battleship, Dungeons and Dragons, and Ouija. Those are the 6 they list here. Let me see if I can find any more. Because I get it that board games are kind of hard to. A movie we didn't mention in the video game genre that I thought was good, but can understand why some people didn't do it. It might have been Hasbro. I thought it was Mattel. It's one of those idiot companies that did that shit with the fucking Ouija board. Detective Pikachu. I thought Detective Pikachu was actually a pretty good movie. And I thought it was unique for the Pokemon genre. It was based more on the games than it was on the cartoons or the animes. And that one I thought was actually really well done. Albeit it was a Ryan Reynolds film. Like, it really is a Ryan Reynolds vehicle. But let's see. Yeah, Battleship, fucking terrible. Pokemon, Clue, Labyrinth.
David Bowie?
Yeah, but they're basing it on the fact that it's a puzzle game. Like, Labyrinth was based on the Labyrinth. So that one's a bit of a stretch. But a great movie. And also my first ever crush came from that movie, and it was Jennifer Connelly. And getting to meet her in person was the only time I ever, like, fangirled. Like, I've met some amazing, like, big name celebrities. Like, I got to hang out with Tim Robbins and stuff. Like, I've met some big names. But meeting her in person was like, oh my god, 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 oh my god. It was just like, it's fucking
understandable.
That's great. So there's Game Night, which I don't know if anybody ever saw that with
sounds like, I think that was like Jason Bateman,
Rachel
Jason
McAdams.
Sudeikis.
Yeah, and so it's not based on any one board game, but it's about board games and this whole, like, escape room style mystery kind of thing. I do think it's funny though. I like that movie. There's a movie called Werewolves Within, based on the board game One Night Ultimate Werewolf, which is like, it's like Mafia or Among Us or something, where one of you is a werewolf and you got to figure out, everybody else has to figure out who the werewolf is. And I've not seen it. It is a fairly newer movie. It has the girl from the AT&T commercials in it. I'm gonna have to check that. I am gonna have to check it out though. Oh, here's another great one. Not so much based on a board game, but more so based on just a game in general. Ready or Not.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. With the
murderous hide and seek game. That movie is
Margot
insane.
Robbie.
No, it's not Margot Robbie.
Robbie.
It's Samara Weaving.
Oh.
Who looks like Margot
But
Robbie,
the-
so I get that. But she
She
also, by the way,
does.
she played Bill's daughter in Bill and Ted 3, I believe.
Yes.
So, well, that's based on Hide and Seek, which is not technically a board game. I'm gonna include it because that movie's just really good. It's
Yeah.
so over the top. I love every second of it. So good. Yeah, we talked about Zathura earlier. That one's actually based on a book, and the game came after, but it is based on a board game, just like Jumanji. It's a space Jumanji.
If you want to go the same route, there's like 100 horror movies that are based on Truth or Dare.
Wait.
Or Would You Rather, which stars adult film actress Sasha Grey, I think, is in it, and I think the
She
guy
also
that
directed
plays
it. She directed it too.
did she really?
Yeah.
I think she like eats a toilet seat or something like that. I can't like remember how she dies. And I know that the dude that plays Ricky from Trailer Park Boys is in it. The dude that was the dad in the Home Alone movies is in it, and he just downs an entire bottle of scotch after he's like a fully recovered alcoholic based on something that's in it. Fucking awesome! It's just so dumb.
Do you guys remember the movie
Like,
Pie?
The gore is insane. The movie
The movie
Pie.
Pie. It's Darren Aronofsky's debut film. He's the guy who did Black Swan, The Wrestler, The Fountain with Hugh Jackman. His debut film in 1998 was a movie called Pie. What I didn't know is that movie is based on the board game Go. Go is a very famous, very hard... It's a game that computers still to this day cannot win. It's a Chinese or Korean game. And it's a board game that computers just cannot win against humans. AI has not evolved in a way where they can... That's how complicated the game is. But it's one of those... It's simply a moving game. Like, it's almost like Othello. Do you know that game? The black and white disc. You got to move them around the board. I didn't realize that Pi was based on that game. That's pretty crazy.
Huh.
Okay, so this one's also a stretch because they also make fun of this in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. It's a movie called The Seventh Seal, and it's where a guy plays chess against the Grim Reaper. It's not based on chess. It's based on the dialogue between the two as he's trying to beat death within a game of chess. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey makes fun of this when they play Death and Twister and Battleship and everything else.
Electronic football and all those games.
Yeah, so that one I think is a bit of a stretch. And then of course we got there's the Super Mario movie, but that's based on a video game. Did they make a Mafia movie? Oh, it's based on the game Mafia, not based on... It's a board game
Mafia franchise.
It's based on the video game franchise, not the board game. But yeah. So there's been a lot of them out there. There's a movie about Mahjong. How the fuck does that work? Some of these you're really like at a point where you're just all right now. Like, how devoid of creativity are you that you gotta...
That's when you get like Alone in the Dark and any of those like types of movies that are anything that the Sci-Fi Channel ever made too that was based on anything. I think Alone in the Dark might have been one of those, where it's just so bad.
Yeah, and also speaking of Alone in the Dark, it was directed by Eva Bowl. And what about Postal?
Oh God, fucking Blood Rain, the Blood Rain movies.
Oh yeah, those blue.
Christina Loken was in the first one. The movie is God.
That guy literally threatens to fight every critic of his shit. Like legit has had boxing matches with critics.
Because he's like Blood Rain. He did the Postal movie, which is dog shit.
All of his movies are dog shit. He's never made a good film.
No.
He's done because he tried to be the guy that like I can make video game movies and it's like no, you can't.
You can't make anything, sir.
No, you can't.
I'm gonna look up his history because he's had a lot. Yeah, those Blood Rain movies are absolute dog shit, and yet they have people
Yeah.
like Ben Kingsley and Mike Madsen in them, and Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah. Blood Rain is particularly bad. The why are you wet? The
It's
it's
piss.
probably going somewhere here. It's supposed to be. No, it's not. It's. I took a shower and then she went direct to. For someone who's not supposed to like water, this one wants to be in the shower with everybody.
No, she's part
I
tiger.
don't know why.
So there was In the Name of the King,
Probably.
which was his version of D&D. The Blood Rain series, which, by the way, he made 3 In the Name of the Kings. Postal.
But Jason Statham?
No, Jason
the
Statham
first one?
he only did the first one. He did Alone in the Dark. He directed House of the Dead, which is based on that that arcade shooter, the one where you got
Both
the
those,
actual
the first one and the second one, are dog shit.
Yeah. He made a Far Cry movie.
Didn't even know that.
No.
Yeah, I didn't either until right now. He made that in 2008.
Oh God.
Yeah. So he just went on a whole run.
Well, that's what he was trying to do. He wanted to be the guy that made all the movies, but they were just so damn bad, and he threatened to fight like box critics, and I believe he has. And someone took him up on it.
He had a couple of them take him up on it.
It's so bad.
What?
I was trying to think of like the Resident Evil movies. We kind of touched on those earlier, but the Resident Evil movies have very little to nothing to do with the game starting out. And then I remember
Lord Mannix, thank you for the subscription.
Woo!
Greatly appreciate it.
Thank
How's
you,
it going,
Mannix.
sir?
I can't remember which one it was that was actually good, and I think it was good because it truly had nothing to do with anything Resident Evil did, and it was just kind of like a good sci-fi zombie movie, and kind of like hokey and stuff like that. I can't remember if that was the third one or the fourth one.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I'm thinking it was the third
Because
one.
Resident Evil 2 was a decent movie, all things considered, but it still had nothing to do with Resident Evil. I haven't seen the Netflix series, which I heard is really bad.
It's absolutely terrible, and as great as the late great Lance Reddick is, him as Wesker makes no sense. Especially since he's playing Albert Wesker, but he's playing a descendant of Albert Wesker. Like, he's not the Albert Wesker. It's fucking weird. RE Extinction was the most fun. Well, the RE movies, that's done by Paul W.S. Anderson, who also did Monster Hunter, which is also a shitty adaptation of a video game to a film. But, like, he did the first Mortal Kombat film, which is still one of the best video game adaptations out there, even though it's a really cheesy, hokey movie.
Yep.
But he didn't do Mortal Kombat Annihilation. And the reason he stuck with doing Resident Evil is because he saw what they did to it. He's like, oh, you're going to ruin my baby. Problem is, he ruined Resident Evil in the first one.
Yeah.
This is the baby that you kind of just put that one in the trash.
I remember going to see that movie, and the thing that clicked in my head the most as a 16-year-old kid was the fact that when Mila Jovovich gets off the table at the end of the film, there's a full-on crotch shot with her no underwear on a giant screen for all of us to see at 16 years old.
Yeah.
That's what I remember from that film. Also, he cheated on his wife, and she cheated on her husband to be with each other. And she did that twice, because she did that in The Fifth Element with the director of The Fifth Element, when she wasn't married at the time, but he was. And they got together. And then she cheated on him with Paul W.S. Anderson, who was also married at the time. And then they got together, and I believe have since divorced. Weird stuff. Weird stuff. But, like, yeah, that movie, like, I remember watching Resident Evil going, yeah, there's elements of the game in here, but this has nothing to do with the game. First off, created a whole new character. Why? There are plenty of characters. At the time that movie came out, they still had they had Resident Evil up through I think 5
3.
at that point.
Right.
No,
No,
4.
I think
no.
just 3.
No,
Wait,
just
hold
3.
on. Was it just 3? But you also had the
Yes.
Code Veronica game.
Yeah, you had a couple of spin-off RE games, but for the main series, it was just up to 3 at the time.
Because I remember I was
4 didn't
older
come out
by the time
too.
4 came out.
So it was 2002 when the first one came out. Oh, so I was 20. I was not 16. Why did I think I was 16 when that came out?
Did the crowd shot of Mila Jovovich make you feel like you were 16?
It made me felt like I was 16 when it came out. It felt like it. I felt like I was like being dumbed down to watch the movie. Maybe that's what it was. Yeah, so 4 hadn't come out yet. So it was just 3 that was out. But Code Veronica was out, so you still had those side characters. You had plenty of characters to choose from still. Like, why was it not Jill, or why was it not Claire Redfield, or why was, like, there were so many characters to choose from.
Yeah. And I think that was my biggest problem with the new Mortal Kombat movie. This came out a couple of years ago. I was like, you have literally tons of characters to choose from to star in this film, and you create a whole new character that we've never seen, don't give a damn about. I was like, why?
There's a Wing Commander movie?
Yes.
Yep.
With
Freddie Prinze Jr.?
Freddie Prinze Jr. and Matthew Lillard.
Yeah.
I remember, because I never played any games. I didn't realize it was a game series, but I watched the animated series on the USA Network when I was a kid. And when I heard that it was getting a live action adaptation, I was so excited and went with one of my best friends at the time because he was a big fan of it too. And we both watched it. It was like, wow, that was shit.
The Need for Speed movie.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
That's another bad.
I have tried to
So
put that out
bad.
of my head. Thank you for putting it back in, CPG.
There's a Dolph Lundgren Dead Trigger movie.
Yeah. Yeah. There are so many bad ones that you don't even think about, and I want a live action Duckman show. I don't think that would fly in today's society.
No chance in hell. I mean, just go and get the complete season, like on eBay or something, and just relive those memories.
Dead Trigger is worse than his Punisher movie. His Punisher movie is actually not super bad.
No,
It's a product of its time.
Yes.
It's a product
Very.
of its time. But so you got Uncharted, Monster Hunter, Ready Player One, but that's based on the book. It's not based on a game. It has games in it, but Mortal Kombat Annihilation, Hitman, Detective Pikachu, Warcraft, the Mortal Kombat series, Ender's Game, again based on a book, not a game, the Sonic the Hedgehog series, which is actually good, Assassin's Creed, which is beyond horrible, Silent Hill Revelation, that's the second one, and that one's actually good.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed that one.
Tomb Raider. Now, the Street Fighter 2 animated movie is phenomenal.
Yes.
It's phenomenal. But that's an anime. And
Right.
that's the people
An
who
anime
created
adaptation.
that's actually Capcom made that movie. Not another studio. So of course they're going to get it right. And they do. Need for Speed, Mass Effect got an animated movie. Street Fighter we talked about. Scott Pilgrim, again, based on a comic book, not a game. Prince of Persia, Max Payne, the Resident Evil series. Ace Attorney got a movie? Really? A live action Ace Attorney. It's a Japanese film, but it's a live action Ace Attorney film. Wing Commander, Street Fighter Legend Chun-Li, Dead or Alive, Jesus. Double Dragons, Heavenly Sword, Tekken, Dragon Age,
Heavenly Sword got a movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an animated.
See, Lawnmower Man, it's based on a book about a video game. So I don't really count that one. They made Mission Impossible video games, yes, but that was after the show came out. Raw Julia is the best Bison. He
Mhm.
put everything he had left. King of Fighters got a live action movie. Postal Far Cry, we talked about those.
There's that the Willy's Wonderland, which is basically a Five Nights at Freddy's movie.
They're making a Five
Yeah.
Nights at Freddy's right now, and Matthew Lillard is the star.
Really?
So I'm all for it. Now, what scares me is I believe it's Paul W.S. Anderson making the film.
Oh boy.
And we know that he's not very accurate when it comes to sticking to the material. However, that's another game very much written. The guy who created the Friday Nights at Freddy game had actually written it as a movie script first. Realized he couldn't make it, turned it into a game. So it's all right there. Let me look up who's doing that to make sure.
Willy's Wonderland is okay. It's very strange. It's more in line with like the last couple horror-esque movies that Nicolas Cage has done, where he doesn't talk very much. He's very strange, which is not, outside the realm of Nick Cage. But
Okay, so it's not Paul W.S. Anderson. It's Jason Blum of Blumhouse doing it. So I have a lot more faith in it now. Also, interesting enough, it comes out October 27th of this year, simultaneously in theaters and on Peacock. So we can watch it at home.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
What was that one? What did you just say? I tuned out.
Five Nights at Freddy is by Jason Blum of Blumhouse.
Right.
And it'll come out on Peacock and in theaters on the same day of October 27th, 2023. So this year.
Oh, nice.
And then I do think I saw it on the page I was reading, and I know that my brother said about the other day that there's a Borderlands movie coming out.
It's a
and
TV
I don't know
show.
if it's this year or next
No.
year.
No, wait. I'm thinking Twisted Metal is getting a TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah, Samoa Joe's playing Sweet Tooth in that. And the Borderlands movie, I think Kevin Hart is in it and Dave Bautista, I think.
Okay.
Playing some of the characters and stuff. It's supposed to be an adaptation of the first game, but Kevin Hart is playing Roland, which I think is very strange because Roland is a big guy, and Kevin Hart is notoriously known for not being a big guy.
Yeah, he's 5'4". He says he's 5'6", but I ran into him figuratively and literally at Universal Studios one time at Halloween Horror Nights, and I actually bumped into him, and his forehead hit my shoulder.
That's a small guy.
Yeah, and you know how tall I am, CPG, so, yeah. CGI Kevin Hart is 10 feet tall, similar to what they did to Peter Dinklage in the Infinity War.
A 900-foot tall dwarf. I love that.
Yeah.
So the cast of Five Nights at Freddy, it's Matthew Lillard, Josh Hutcherson, Piper Rubio, young actress, Elizabeth Lale, Mary Stuart Masterson. All right. And then two no-name actors that I have no idea who they are. Apparently there was a teaser trailer released 13 hours ago.
Oh shit. Yeah, we'll see how those, how that turns out. It's gonna be like a 50-50. I don't know, like Willy's Wonderland, I've heard this is like damn near the same thing. Willy's Wonderland is just weird. Some weird stuff going on.
So Borderlands is directed by Eli Roth. That's a plus.
That's really interesting. Now that has my
now
attention.
I'm all for that. What about the Paramount Plus Halo series? Okay. All right.
I haven't watched it just because I heard it's so bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would first like to preface that I am not a fan of the Halo series video games. That being said, the show was fucking horrible. And the worst part was, the company that created the games was the main production company behind the series, and yet they purposely said that they were not going to actively follow the games.
Was it Bungie or was it Microsoft?
It was Bungie.
Oh, that makes it worse.
Yeah, and I'm like, it is so... And the fact that, like, you know how in The Mandalorian, it took forever and a day to get the Mandalorian's mask off? Like, it wasn't even to the end of season 2 that he finally took his helmet off?
Yeah.
No, it
Well,
was the
season one. He got
season one.
saved by the droid.
Oh, that's right.
Where you
Season
see
one.
his face
Yeah.
for the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, but like it was again. It wasn't until very. Master Chief is another character notorious for never taking his helmet off. Within the first 5 minutes of the show, helmet's off.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And that right there told you everything you need to know about the fact that they did not give two shits about the lore of Halo when they made the series. And what blows my mind is that Bungie was fully on board and doing it and said fuck everything.
The crazy thing is that especially by Halo Guardians, the game becomes incredibly cinematic, and there's these cinematic set pieces, and they got actors to play the character. Like Mike Coulter from Luke Cage is one of the characters in Guardians, and I'm like, just make that the show. Do everything that you did, just do it with people, and then when they start moving around, animate them like it look like how it does in those games. This isn't hard. And then from what I've heard, it is hard. Apparently it's very hard.
It's very hard. Lord Mac says, but I feel we don't have any good space shows or movies anymore. Well, I think Mandalorian's good, but like
most of the Star Wars stuff has been pretty good.
We're also that you got to remember that sci-fi comes in waves. You have a period of hot sci-fi, and then it goes away, and then like 5 or 10 years later, we get another hot wave of sci-fi. Sci-fi comes in waves because people can only take so much of it before it gets too much. Do you guys remember when Starship Troopers came out?
Yes.
Yeah, Johnny Rico.
Speaking of that, I'm gonna get a chance to meet him at a con I'm gonna plan on attending this year.
Nice.
Fucking awesome.
Casper Van Dien. And did you know that his daughter was Chrissy from Stranger Things?
Yep. And she just recently came out and basically said she will no longer act and she's going to stick to streaming video games on Twitch.
Yeah.
Because she was asked to be in a threesome with a director when she was underage and all kinds of... And that was like the least bad thing that had been asked of her. Yeah. So yeah, she's like, I'm done with Hollywood. It's fucking gross.
That's awful.
I'm just so glad I get a chance to meet her and her father. I mean, because they're both really. It's a shame that we've lost such a young talent.
Oh yeah, because she's really good.
She was really good. I mean,
she's actually done a lot. Like she has like a lot of. She has like 80 or 100 projects on her IMDb. There's a lot of like straight to DVD or Hallmark movie shit kind of stuff as a kid, but like she's really good. But I mean, I love watching her stream. She's a Blue Philly on Twitch. She's really funny. She's really good. But the fact that she had to come out and say, no, it's fucking gross out there. It's pretty bad. And this is after, again, what should have catapulted her career with that role of Chrissy in Stranger Things. And she's like, nah, I'm done.
Damn.
If you need someone to raid, Brian Pillman Jr. is streaming RE4. Ooh. I think raiding Brian Pillman Jr. would be a lot of fun. And maybe one day, if nothing else, I'll make it, because fuck it, we could get an actual fucking Resident Evil movie that's actually good.
If they did that, I would say just like I like Forest Story a lot. I haven't played really any of them just because they're not my style of game. But like 4, I remember playing through some of it and like thinking that the story was really cool. 5, I can't remember. 5 was the one in Africa, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, remember that one? I was
That story's
like,
actually, that story's not bad, but you also have Chris Redfield punching a boulder. It's fucking weird. I think Leon Kennedy in Resident Evil 4 is your lead. That is the person you make a movie around. That is where you get like a Ryan Reynolds or a Jake Gyllenhaal or somebody like, hell, get Ryan Gosling to play him. Give it to me all day long. I would love it. And I'm playing the new Resident Evil 4. Like I said, I'm probably going to wait till after the weekend, see how I feel. But like this new version, RE4, is an even better story. Like I'm having so much more. As great as RE4 was originally, this new one is even better. I'm having so much fun with it. And it's so good. And the stories are there. But I mean, you can even go back to RE1. Give me the mansion. Give me them locked in a fucking mansion. Not that bullshit lab we had in the Mila Jovovich Resident Evil. Give me a fucking mansion with puzzles and shit. Give me Chris. Give me Claire. And just fucking have them go around and just have zombies and lickers and the dogs. You don't need to go all out in the first film. Build your fucking universe. I tell you what, that Mega Million gets back up to $1 billion and I win that shit, I'm fucking making the movie out of my own fucking dime.
I guess this is where I'm
George Lucas this shit.
The noob in this part of the Geeks Noobs podcast. I have no idea. I know that Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 are connected to each other, but I have no idea 4, 5, and then like, are they all in the same universe?
Yes.
Like
So
Biohazard and Village are so different than the other ones.
Okay, so Biohazard and Village are kind of like outliers, but they are in the universe because Chris Redfield comes back in Village. So Resident Evil 2 is where you first meet Leon Kennedy as a rookie. He's coming to Raccoon City to join the police force. By Resident Evil 4, after going through what he went through in Resident Evil 2, he is now the president's kind of right-hand man in the bio-weaponry and anti-bio-weaponry field. And so he's really been promoted. It's years later, obviously. He's earned that promotion, but he's been moved up. And what happens is that Umbrella, which you thought got knocked out in the first one, has continued to work behind the scenes and has spread their plagues across the world. And that's why it expands to Africa. It expands to other places. And like this one is someplace in, I want to say Spain, is where Resident Evil 4 takes place. And that's because Umbrella has been like... What's cool about Resident Evil 5 is you find out where the plant originated from that started the entire T virus and G virus in the first place. That's what you find out in 5, is that the plant that they use to base everything on is right out of Africa. And but they expand on the world pretty well. 6, I know a lot of people shit on 6 as a game, and it is kind of hokey. I enjoy it though. It's fun. And then again, you get to 7 and 8, you know, Biohazard and Village. You get a whole new character, a whole new perspective, but they're still dealing with biohazards and stuff and like crap out there. And it takes it into a different realm, but it's really cool. But if you do a movie series, you don't even have to touch on those. You could do those separately. You could literally have 2 Resident Evil movies come out at the same time, and they could be separate and be fine. But yeah, give me a Resident Evil movie that's just stuck in a mansion with like ridiculous rich people puzzles to unlock doors and shit, and fucking zombies, and that's all you need. You don't need to go the high-tech AI security route they went in the first one with the... Fuck that shit. That's stupid. Don't fucking do it. The game is perfect for a film. So we got Mia Yin, Colt Cabana, and Brian Pillman Jr. all streaming. Right on. We already got a hell of a call out from Colt Cabana. Mia Yim's an interesting one. Playing a game called Demonologist. I don't know if I played that one. I want to give Brian Pillman Jr. some love, though. Because, like, Mia Yim, she's got the WWE backing her and up, up, down, down backing her. Brian Pillman doesn't have that. Let's give that to. Let's give him some love. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's episode. We're going to raid Brian Pillman Jr. as he plays some RE4. Which, check out what he's doing. I will be continuing that game. I just finished Chapter 3 last time I played through. I'll get back to it as soon as I'm feeling a little bit better. And we'll go ahead. I'll probably play the game straight through. I don't want it to end. I just was having technical issues last time I was playing it, which is why I cut it short. But definitely want to check that out. Let me pull up his feed. Find him. Make sure I get his name right.
There's that Tetris documentary movie coming out.
Oh, that's going to be good. I think that's going to be really
Joel
good.
Edgerton.
Yeah,
I saw the trailer for that, and it looked phenomenal.
Yeah, that series looks great. Yeah, Brian Pillman Jr.'s only got 6 people watching right now. Let's go give him some love.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go raid Brian Pillman Jr. Thank you guys for tuning in. I don't know what we're going to talk about next week. just yet. I am gonna go see this Super Mario movie sometime this weekend, and the Dungeons and Dragons movie. So maybe we'll talk more about those films in that. But the week after that, we're gonna be covering the Renfield film in full glory, because that movie's going to be just phenomenal. I just know it. It looks so good. So once again, thank you guys for tuning in. If you haven't already followed us, please follow us on all the socials and all that good stuff. And stick around, because we are going to raid Brian Pillman Jr. right now. Give him some love. Tell him the Geeks and Noobs sent you guys. And we will see you guys next week.